One of the things that I love most about the EufyMake UV printer is actually the camera that's inside the machine. This camera is generally pretty accurate, and unlike a laser camera, most laser cameras, if you have a laser cutter, is very fisheye and kind of distorts images. The EufyMake UV printer doesn't actually do that for the most part. For the most part, I would say like 99% of the time, what you see on the camera in the live action preview is exactly what you get. However, I did find that there is a limitation, and that is going to be when you're printing golf balls. For whatever reason, the height of this and the curve of the actual ball makes the camera image distorted. But how do you print on golf balls if you wanted to do it on the EufyMake UV printer? The answer is that you actually have to create a jig. It's not hard. Really easy. I'm going to show you how to make the jig. The jig is important for two reasons. One is when you make the jig, you're going to be able to print on multiples over and over and over again, never having to reset up anything. I guess there's another reason to this, is that this won't roll around in your bed because now we have this to lay this down, okay? Also, this jig is going to be really important because when we lay our blank golf balls into these holes and then we go and do a snapshot, what you're gonna see on the screen, and I will show you, is that the actual bed preview image is going to be distorted and you're going to have a really hard time lining up your prints. So I'm going to show you today how we create this jig and why this jig is actually really important. Now, are you going to have to make a jig for everything? Probably not. It does benefit you when you want to do mass amounts of printing like golf balls or business cards or something like that. It will come in useful, but for the most part, if you were doing like one-off projects, you probably don't ever have to make a jig. But this is just for the people that want to do quick projects like these, multiple quick projects like these, or if you find that you do have a camera angle issue, like what happens with these golf balls. Now, the other key important factor about today's video is not only am I going to show you how we make a jig and why it is important, but also if you know anything about the EufyMake UV software, everything gets resized when you import into the EufyMake, and then you have to go back to your original design and resize everything. I'm going to show you how we don't have to resize a dang thing. We are going to make sure that when we import it into the EufyMake software, it imports the same exact size as how we saved it originally. All right, so let's head over to the computer where we create this jig together. Now for today's project, I'm going to be starting off over in Canva to create not only my laser jig for my xTool P2S, but also my jig for my EufyMake UV printer. Now I have created videos in the past with using my xTool P2S and my EufyMake UV printer for using a program called Inkscape. Inkscape is free and I do love that program, okay? The one thing that I have noticed though, is that's why you're here, is that things often get resized when we upload into the EufyMake UV printer. You don't have that issue when you go over into your laser cutter like the xTool P2S. So because I'm trying to avoid any type of resizing, what I'm doing today is staying over within Canva because I can guarantee that nothing gets resized over in Canva. The one thing that is very important here is that you want to create your file size to the size of the actual bed that you are using for the EufyMake UV printer. I'm going to be using the mini flatbed for today's project. You could do the same steps if you were using a larger one, using the exact size of the larger bed, okay? For the smaller size, what you need to do is create your canvas or your file within Canva at 2.2 inches by 3.45 inches. How you do that is if you've never opened up a new custom size in Canva, is over in the home screen, you'll see this right here that says create new size. So click on that, set your units over into inches, and then you would create the size that you need. That would be this one right here. It'd be 12.2 by 3.45 inches, okay? Once you put in your new size, you would press create design, then you'll get pretty much it'll just be a blank white window within your Canva software, okay? This right here is where we create both the jigs, the jig for the laser and the jig also for the EufyMake, okay? Now the thing that you have to remember when it comes to making a jig, if you are using golf balls, also side note, A lot of people are going to ask this, how come I just didn't put the golf ball inside the rotary attachment tool that you can get with the EufyMake UV printer? These right here are way too small and will not work in the rotary. So we actually kind of have to hack the system, and that would be just by creating a jig, okay? The reason why you need two separate files is because if you were to make the file the size width of the actual golf ball, it will start rolling around. Ask me how I know, because I tried like 3 times, and I do know that you kind of have to make that circle really small so it actually holds the golf ball. So when you like shake it around and it moves around, it actually won't move while you're trying to print on it, okay? But you kind of want to make it a little bit bigger because the size hole at the bottom with that we put our golf ball in is actually smaller than the area of which you can print on. Did I just lose you there? I hope I didn't. Okay, just follow me. Watch what I do. that'll be easier for you, okay? So let's first create the jig for the xTool P2S. If you don't have an xTool, but you have like a different laser, that's okay. As long as it can cut whatever. I personally chose to cut it on acrylic. You could cut also on wood. So if you have a diode laser, you could still do this thing. You would just cut your piece of your jig material out on wood. All right, it does need to be a thicker thing, so you couldn't cut this jig like out on cardstock, because then it wouldn't be able to hold your golf ball in place to roll it around. All right, okay, so first things first, what I'm going to do is I am going to make this background black. So we're just going to come over here and we're going to make this black, and then I'm going to click out of that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here into elements, and I'm going to click this circle. Okay, you can change it to white if you want to. For whatever reason, it always populates to pink for me, but you can change it over to white. And then what I need you to do is I need you to resize this. So by clicking this little circle right here, you want to make sure that the ratio is locked, and you want to resize this to 0.75. However, we are going to need a second circle, and that's just because you're going to have correct spacing. If we were to take this and we would do 0.75 and space this out, you're probably going to have circles that are going to be too close together that won't sit down nice and flat. So you gotta have to make sure that you have nice spacing, okay? So the actual width of the golf ball, like the largest width of this, I'm sure all golf balls are made the same. The actual circle is 1.5 side to side, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to take that 0.75 circle and Command D, which is duplicate, or you can copy and paste it. All right, with your very first circle, what I want you to do is now resize this to 1.5 inches. And then we can change this over to a different color just so we can see what we're doing. All right, so we're going to put this smaller circle directly in the middle of that pink circle, selecting both, and we are going to group these together. Please make sure that when we put these circles into each other, that they are perfectly centered. It makes a huge difference, okay? Now what you want to do is we are going to put this onto our jig. The whole jig, this thing, that black rectangle that's on my screen is this entire thing that's right here, okay? I prefer things to be nice and center. You don't have to make it nice and center if you don't want to. I just like things that look aesthetic, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this down, making sure that it's nice and center, and I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate both pieces, and I'm going to just make a few different duplicate copies until I pretty much have it all the way filled up. Now, if you think that you can squeeze one more in there, you totally can. Try and squeeze another one in there. Selecting everything. I'm going to drag this to my end. We'll see if we can fit all of these on our page. We're going to position, and let's just maneuver them. Perfect. I have 2, 4, 6, 7, which actually is more than my original one that I have right here, which is pretty cool. Okay, just want to make sure that I have my entire thing nice and center throughout, and I do. Okay, so now that I have everything ungrouped, before I delete anything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my actual page. I'm going to Command D, which is duplicate. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 of the same pages. All right, for the first page, this is going to be our laser cut jig that I'm going to take over to my laser cutter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my pink circles, and I'm going to delete it. So this is what we are going to take over to our laser cutter. Okay, For this one right here, what I am going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to delete all the white circles. Now with these pink ones, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change them back over to white. Okay, now that we have both of these created, there's one more thing that we have to do, okay? And I know that we've already changed this over to black, but you know what? Once we save it, things end up getting all messed up and weird. So what we got to do is we actually got to come over here into elements, insert a free shape. This is just going to end up being another black rectangle. We're going to insert this rectangle, filling up your entire page. Make sure you fill up your entire page, okay? And we are going to change this over to black. And then we are going to send this to the back, okay? I know that that seems like we just did double duties, but it will make sense here in a second. I actually saved it the other way just so I can show you in the xTool program what ends up happening if you don't add that additional black rectangle, okay? So what we're gonna do for the first thing is we are going to cut this out, this jig out on my xTool P2S. Remember, you don't actually have to have an xTool or a CO2 laser in order to make this project. You could use your own different type of laser, and also if you had a diode laser, you could just cut this out on wood instead of acrylic. I'm gonna use acrylic because I have ample amount of that, all right? So we're just gonna come over here and press download. What I want you to do is press transparent background, and you also only want to be saving the xTool P2S or the laser cut file, okay? Then you want to press download. Now this right here is going to download to my computer. I'm just going to replace it with my original jig that I had, and I'm going to open up my xTool Creative Space software. Now at this point in time, what we could do is we can turn on our xTool P2S. I already have a sheet of acrylic installed into my xTool P2S, so I'm just going to leave it in there. I'm not going to do an update. Don't tell my husband. I'm just going to come over here to new project. Thankfully, he doesn't watch any of my YouTube videos, so we're good there, okay? My xTool P2S automatically gets linked up together because it's all via Bluetooth, so I'm going to not update that again and exit out of that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do an aimed measure. The reason why is I always love to have really good crispy cuts, okay? You can see that I already have one of my jigs already cut out. I'm going to come over here into my downloads folder, drag and drop the file that we created, that PNG file. We're going to drag and drop it into the xTool Creative Space. You can see that we have this right here. Now, if you were to have just stopped at creating that black background and saving it the way that I did, never inserting that black rectangle, what ends up happening is you'll get something that looks like this. And while they look pretty similar, the one thing that you're missing is the black background. When you click out of your actual image, do you see how there is no actual cut lines on the outside of that? That's a problem, because essentially what you're going to do is you're going to have all these holes that get cut out and nothing that's your actual rectangle, which is your actual jig, which is really important when we go to set this up in the actual machine. I think I said actual like 8 times there. Trust me. What you want is that black rectangle, okay? So taking your file, what I want you to do is I want you to come over here to trace. And then you're going to see that there's some blue lines that go around your circles and then also around your rectangle. Perfect. Don't have to do anything else but just press save. Now it will look like nothing happened, but you can do is drag and move this around. This is going to be your cut file. This right here we can go ahead and delete. Now with this, we're just going to line this up on your material. I'm going to make sure that my parameters are set up. So I'm going to be using 3mm black acrylic. I know I said that I'm cutting this out on purple. To be honest with you, I actually don't notice a difference in change in colors. I feel like they all cut the same. It's just the actual the settings for all acrylic is all the same, unless you're doing thicker acrylic. Then that's the time that you would actually want to change your settings over. But like black, white, clear, all of that, it's all going to be the same, okay? So we're going to come over here to cut. I love to cut mine acrylic over at 7 speed, 100 power. So I'm just going to click out of that, making sure that I'm going to hug this tie just so we save on material. And then what you want to do is press process. It's going to take a total of 3 minutes and 4 seconds for my xTool to cut this. We're just going to press start and then OK to process. Okay, so then over at your xTool P2S or whatever laser you're using, you just want to make sure and turn on your filter or be venting out of the window. And then you just want to press the happy button on your machine and watch that cut. Okay, now that it's done, you can turn off your filter because holy cow, it's that loud. And we can open up this catch. And here is going to be our finished jig. Now, just so you can see that it's actually going to work, let's pull out some golf balls here and we can just line these up just like this. Oops. Some of these I've already printed on, but you can see how they nicely just lay down perfectly onto our jig without any issues. Okay, so now let's take this jig over to the EufyMake software. Also, you can peel this if you want. I'm just going to leave it just because it's going to do its thing with or without the actual masking tape on there. Okay, at the EufyMake, you want to do is be using the bed that you made your actual jig for, okay? This is also very important. What you want to do is take your jig. You see this little corner that's right here? We are going to line up our jig to that corner. You want to make sure that it's nice and straight. Okay, see how it's nice and straight here and here. Okay, we are going to push this down just like so. It's going to be stuck on there. All right, now what you want to do is insert that into the EufyMake just like this. Now I only have one sleeve of naked balls on my EufyMake, but I'm going to put them over here on the far left just to show you that the jig is actually going to work. Now these particular balls have a lot of writing on them. You kind of want to align your things, your golf balls, to where you don't have any writing on the actual where you're going to print. So focusing on like this right here. They do sell golf balls that don't have like a whole lot of writing on them. I would suggest getting that just so then you're not playing like dodgeball with your golf balls. I'm going to use these right here. So the far three left are going to be the ones that are completely naked. Everything that's over here on the right already has prints on it, but just for the sake of content, I'm going to put them on there just so you understand what a jig is used for, okay? Making sure to avoid anything, we're going to lay them down right there. Okay, the next key and important thing about doing golf balls, it's really truly only the golf balls that are an issue. Anything else that you are going to do, I'm assuming that you're going to use a jig for, is going to be flat and not rounded, so you probably won't have this issue. But in the EufyMake, what we're doing is we're essentially telling the EufyMake that we're going to print on something flat, but that's extremely tall, okay? But we're not printing on something flat. We're printing on something that's rounded. I don't know if I've already talked about this, but someone's probably going to ask why we are doing the golf ball like this versus on the rotary. It's because the rotary, these are way too small and the rotary won't be able to do that. The rotary is really truly only for tumblers, okay? But going back to the sizes in Canva, okay, we created that second jig for the EufyMake UV printer, and those circles that are on the screen is for the actual width of this golf ball like this, okay? You could, if you wanted to, print large like that, but what happens is because the printer thinks that we're printing on a flat surface, anything that goes over the plane of the flat surface will start to get fuzzy and almost have like an airbrush effect, okay? I actually have in real life examples for you, all right? So this one right here that I'm going to show you was printed at 0.75 inches in height. This one right here was printed at just over an inch in height, okay? Now, this one right here was that taller one, and do you see how there's kind of like an airbrush look up here at the very top? And then also down at the bottom, you can see that it's kind of airbrushed here. That's because it broke the plane, and because the head goes this way, right, and we're printing at the highest point, if it's trying to bend the curve a little bit to print, it starts to get fuzzy, all right? So there are limitations to how big you can actually print if you were doing like a golf ball like this. So this right here was printed, I think it's a little over an inch, and then this one right here was printed at 0.75. They're different clip arts, but you can see how this one right here, there's no fuzziness, right? Nothing is faded or like, you know, breaking the plane or anything like that. This is smaller, this one's larger, right? But you know what? Both end results end up looking great. So I created this file with you just so if you wanted to have like larger things like this, you would be capable with how we created this. But just know that when you do it, you may have some fuzzy things like this, all right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to Creative Fabrica because I love Creative Fabrica. And I am going to put in golf. Let's just put in like golf and see what pops up over there. That's where I get all of my clip arts, to be honest with you. I'm gonna find one that I want to use. Oh, this one right here. For the love of God, just get in the hole. That's hilarious. Okay, so I'm just gonna press download and then press allow. Just load it into my computer. Then what I'm gonna do is coming over here into Canva, I'm gonna drag and drop my thing over here. Okay, I don't have to do any background remover, which is great. Now for this, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna resize this to a height of 0.75 inches. Now, just like with the first jig, how we wanted to make sure, ooh, I totally forgot to tell you, if you don't want to ruin your jig, what I want you to do, oh, let's just copy this and delete it. I want you to duplicate this. This can be your master copy, and then this right here can be your new copy, okay? So pretend like I just did that. I just dragged and dropped into my new copy, okay? And I'm going to center this into my golf ball. Just like what we did with the xTool jig, we're gonna do that here, okay? We are gonna Command D, which is duplicate, and I'm going to do the same clip art for all of my golf balls, just like that. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to take your golf balls, and I want you to delete them. Then what I want you to do is take that black rectangle or the black background and delete that. So this is what your final end result is going to look like. I know it doesn't look like a whole lot, but trust me, it will here in a second, okay? So let's come over here into share and download. For this particular file, I am going to bump the resolution all the way up to the highest setting because the highest resolution will get you the best prints, okay? I want to make sure I do transparent background, and I'm only going to print my current page, pressing done and then download. Now, while we wait for that to download, what I want you to do is open up a new page or canvas inside of the EufyMake software. Nope, it's already done saving, so let's golf ball print. Over here in the new canvas, you want to make sure that you are selected on the bed size that you are using. I'm using the current mode. We already have the golf balls installed into the EufyMake, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press snapshot. Now what I'm going to do is, while I wait for that to wait, is I'm going to drag and drop my print into the EufyMake software. When you drag and drop it into there, you're going to automatically see that it just drops in, it does not resize at all. The one thing you do have to do though is take your print, and you see how it went into the direct center. I need you to take it and move it all the way to the right. See, so this bottom right corner is going to be essentially where we put that jig, in the bottom right corner where that green little thing is. So that's where I want you to put it. There was this like little hangover there onto the, like there was nothing over there on the side of my flatbed. Perfect. This is great. Just making sure that everything is towards the right, clicks all the way to the right, okay? Now the great thing is nothing got resized, so we're not going to have to do any type of changes. Now remember what I told you about the thing getting distorted. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Over here in the direct center, these two, three right here, these three right here, 1, 2, 3. And then maybe even this one right here looks like it's going to be okay, right? Like this direct center middle one looks like this is going to be a fine print, don't have to do anything. However, when you move over here to the right and over here to the left, even this one right here, do you see how everything looks very weird and distorted? Trust the process. If you were to try and manually place this on your ball, you're probably going to put this little image over here to the right, and then it's not going to print right, okay? But what we have created here is an item that is going to print directly on the center of the top of the golf ball. It may not look like it, but I promise you it will. As long as you sized it the way that I have you sized it, put your jig in the spot that I have you put it in, everything else is going to line up perfectly. I promise you. promise you, okay? So what I want to do at this point is I want to make sure that I'm doing the proper settings. So I'm going to do, let's do white and CMYK and gloss, just so we can see like what a gloss golf ball looks like. All right. Clicking out of that, I want to make sure that I'm going to choose plastic. I'm not entirely sure what a golf ball is, but they kind of feel like plastic to me. Plastic will be fine for me. Okay, we are going to keep it at standard print. Oh, no, let's do high quality. Let's see what high quality does for us. And then all you want to do is press print. Now that my computer has sent the file over to the EufyMake software is telling me that I'm going to use a total of 0.18 milliliters for all of these golf balls that I'm going to be printing on. 0.18 millimeters is like 12 cents. It is hardly any ink that's being used for today's project. Just a reminder, this is what our file looks like, okay? We are going to press the happy button at the top of our machine, and we are going to let the machine do the prints. In total, all of these golf balls took a total of 18 minutes to print, but we did print on the highest quality setting. Now, if you wanted things to move a lot faster, just do the standard quality print, okay? But now let's head over to the UV printer and see what we got. Okay, so just so you know what the actual prints look like, remember it was gonna be really bowed over here on the left ones. Remember how it was going to, like, you know, not be center? All of these right here, you can see, are all nice and center on our actual things, and they're not moved around at all whatsoever, okay? Like the whole lettering is so teeny, and it ends up turning absolutely amazing. So this printer has the capability of printing really small designs and lettering without any issues. All right, so what do you think of my new little jig? Are you going to make it yourself? I sure hope that you are, because I'm going to tell you right now that printing on golf balls is quite possibly one of my favorite things to do, just because you can't do this with any other printer. I've never found another printer that could do anything like this. So of course I am going to be picking up some more golf balls and doing this. I am going to be giving away so many golf balls this Christmas. I think everyone's going to be filled with golf balls for the rest of their life. All right, y'all, I sure hope that I inspired you to create, and I'll see you on the next one.